Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Hey, Mary Beth, what's going on today?
I just found out that scientists discovered the oldest living animal and then killed it.
Man, I cannot wait for lunch. I am starving.
Did you know that it would only take $40 billion to end world hunger? Yet people are still starving to death.
Talking about Debbie Downer.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Turn on your television, flip the channel to any news broadcast, Google the internet, or listen to those nightly cable news shows, and before long, you'll be overwhelmed with the struggles of your local city, the economy, and yes, even a global pandemic that resulted in more gloom and doom news than one could stand. Yes, the list of what we call Debbie Downers appears to go on, and it gets even worse whenever we receive good news and then get our hopes up. For instance, less than 12 months ago, many a saver was feeling really good about the prospect of retirement as they watched the stock market and the value of their 401k plans go gangbusters. When, out of the blue, and apparently for a multitude of reasons that even baffled the so-called experts, Debbie Downer shows up with more bad news as you watch your life savings plummet in value just about the time when you're thinking of retiring. So what do? Well, you contact your financial advisor or call the toll-free number with the stranger handling your 401k, only to hear more Debbie Downer news like you gotta ride it out, or the tried and true answer during down markets, just hang in there. Yes, the Debbie Downers of the world are more prevalent than ever before, which is why today we're going to take some of that Debbie Downerism on by showing you why we at Tony Walker Financial are able to take the bad news and turn it into good news with actual solutions for our saver clients. That's right, real game plans that in most cases allow our clients to better use, enjoy, and protect more of their money, yes, from the Debbie Downers of the world. And to help us here today in our studios, right here in Louisville, Kentucky, is my favorite son-in-law, fellow fiduciary, Mr. Non-Debbie Downer himself, Mr. Trey Juergens. Good morning, Trey.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And I've been excited about this show because generally, as most people might know, I write all the script, do kind of all the direction. Of course, we got our three wonderful producers in here, but I said, Trey, I want you to kind of tackle something and try to come up with some questions or things that you all see from a back office standpoint. Obviously, I'm seeing a lot of the people working with them, but you all do a lot of the legwork in behind of things that we see that the financial world creates these Debbie Downer moments.
Right. So on the onboarding process, a lot of the time, especially here in the Louisville office, when you bring someone back to me, my job is to kind of help them get all of the applications, all the transfer forms, kind of dive in and get the money moved where it needs to go. That does spark a lot of questions because whenever anybody's moving over their life savings, they start to have a little speculation in what they're doing. So not necessarily that any of our prospective clients are Debbie Downers, but sometimes the financial world has kind of pre-programmed that in their mind.
Yeah, I wonder why that is, though. I wonder why it is that the financial world, they seem more excited to get their money from the clients, and that's fine, nothing wrong with that. But then when you go to get your money back, why it's such these hoops to jump through. And some of our clients, I can't even imagine if they didn't have help, I would assume they'd just give up on the whole process.
Yeah, well, the financial world runs, as you always say, on OPM, other people's money. As soon as the financial world gets that money, they act like it's their own. They're not as excited to give it back to the savers. So in this process, I think that's where people are a little leery as they've dealt with the 800 numbers, the big companies that just don't have time for them. So they're a little leery when they're making changes to just hand this money over.
I've got to tell you a funny story, and we'll get to some of these questions that you came up with or concerns that happened. This has been a couple of years now. A gentleman that worked with a large company here in Louisville, he was getting ready to retire. The 401k was with another big institution. He had met with me once, a couple of times, and he said, well, I want to go to the big institution because they said they can roll over the 401k to an IRA as well. And I said, hey, that's your money, whatever you want to do. So apparently he talked to one advisor, then went in to see another one. They didn't return his call. He came back to me again. So we'd had a total of 5 appointments as he was looking over our game plans and everything, and he finally decided to do business with us. Well, what was funny, he said that he had gone to the other advisor he was approaching and said, I think I'm going to go on and work with Tony Walker Financial. And she said, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. I'll call him Jim. She said, Jim, we're the biggest company in the world. And it's funny, he had this response, Trey. I thought this was ingenious. He said, and I think that's your problem. I can't get return phone calls. This guy, Tony Walker Financial, sees me at any time. I want to work with somebody I can see locally and that'll return my calls and take care of things. And I just thought that was the greatest compliment in the world.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so let's get right into it. What's your first question or concern or things you hear about that are we would call Debbie Downers?
Well, let's go to Debbie Downer.
All right.
Why in the world would I roll over my 401k to you guys, charging fees when I can just leave it where it's at, where fees are less?
So that's a question we hear often. A lot of folks, especially when they're calling their 401k custodian, what they're telling them is that there are no fees or the expense ratios are very, very low, which is true. However, within a 401k, you're very limited to the options that you can invest in, and that's why the fees are able to be low. When these huge 401k companies, the custodians have millions, trillions of dollars, they can charge very minuscule fees because they have so much money. But when you roll it over to a managed account or to an advisor that may make fees and or commissions, what you're really looking to make sure you get in return is a plan. Mm-hmm. So yes, you could save money by keeping it in that 401k. In most instances, you definitely will. But if you roll it over and you're getting charged fees and you don't have a plan, that's a problem.
Yeah, you're right. That doesn't even make sense when you think about it. I mean, if you're going to just roll it over to somebody and they're going to charge 1.5%, 2%, but no game plan, you might as well just leave it at the 401k, which is why we have, in fact, put that up full screen here in our proprietary software in this game plan. And I think when people really see this and understand the value of the game plan, it's like, especially for the fees we charge, I mean, 0.8% to do all this work and all the planning work, I think it's a heck of a bargain. So yeah, we would encourage people, if you've still got money in a 401k, give us an opportunity to roll that out. I think you're going to see that it's going to be orchestrated, navigated well, we manage it, and the fees are very, very reasonable to do so. All right, Debbie Downer, point number 2.
Okay, here we go.
I've always heard that with annuities, when you die, your family is left with nothing.
So this question is mostly asked in response to annuities. There's a lot of misconceptions. You've even written about these misconceptions for 15 plus years. The old annuities were treated similar to pensions. So an immediate annuity, you hand over this large lump sum of premium or money that in return, the insurance company pays you lifetime income until you're dead. Mm-hmm. When you die, even if that was just a couple years after taking that out, that money was gone. And that is a product that we very, very rarely use anymore. What we typically help savers find is the right annuity for their situation. Any annuity outside of a written game plan is not a good product. So what we've looked to do is ensure that the product we're selecting, in most cases, has what's called a contract value that would be left to a named beneficiary or beneficiaries that the owner would name. And we help them in that process. We make sure that the entire game plan beneficiaries are listed, so who you want to get it, gets it.
Got to take a break in a minute. One more question I got. We've got a bunch of them. Go ahead, one more.
Okay, back to Debbie Downer.
You guys say we should only assume 2 to 3% on my money? Good luck keeping up with inflation.
Yeah, so this one's in response to when we present our game plans, the proprietary software that we're showing here on the screen. When we use assumptions of 2 and 3% over time, some of these money managers out there promising 8 to 12% annual returns on brokerage accounts are probably dazzling some clients into going away from our plans. However, why we use those is, as I tell clients, we'd like to have a very positive conversation in 10 years when we've possibly outperformed these realistic assumptions versus a very awkward conversation that some of these money managers that are telling them, hang in there, the Debbie Downers of the world, are going to be pretty upset when they were promised 8 to 10% and they've only been getting 3 or 4, versus if we show them 0 to 3 and we've been able to outperform that, it's a much better example of showing you how to use and enjoy your money without the fear of running out.
Yeah, and I like to say, Trey, over the years, I like Will Rogers saying, always expect the worst and you'll never be disappointed. I think when we do that, especially right now as we record this show in October of 2022, the market's down. And what I would say is, okay, those same money managers that were saying you could get an average return of 10 and 12%, you factor in negative 20% plus if you're retired taking withdrawals, I mean, that's a disaster. So yeah, we like to be very conservative in our assumptions. If we make more than that, great, but what we would like to prove to people is you don't have to take all this risk in most cases. Let's be conservative. Let's get a game plan so you can see how to spend the money, and then you're going to sleep better at night. All right, let's take a quick break. You ready? We'll be right back. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be back with more of your questions. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Well, in case you're just now joining us, this is our Debbie Downer episode. Some really good stuff. I put my favorite son-in-law and fellow fiduciary Trey Juergens in charge of these questions and common things that come up in conversation when people are moving money over, which leads to the last Debbie Downer. Well, a lot of times, let's set the stage. I may be meeting with them. They've decided to roll over their 401k. I've addressed how that's going to work, but then they come back to the onboarding. And I've got to believe a lot of them kind of are like Debbie Downer. Well, I bet y'all are going to make a ton of money, or gosh, I bet it's going to be a lot of taxes to roll this thing over. So explain to people what happens when they roll over, how much we get paid on the front end, and how if it's done properly, there are absolutely no taxes to move those 401k plans over.
Right. So the beauty of 401ks and IRAs, if it's transferred, rolled over, there is no out-of-pocket cost to move funds over into our process. So whether it's being transferred or rolled into Charles Schwab, transferred or rolled into an annuity, there's no out-of-pocket cost. We do all of that for free. There are taxes associated only when funds are distributed directly to you, the
So as
saver.
long as it goes from their custodian to ours, no taxes, right?
No cost, no taxes. Any commissions paid on insurance products like life insurance, annuities, are actually paid directly by the company. That does not come out of the premium going into those products. And the only fees charged on our Charles Schwab platform are deducted quarterly in arrears. So at the end of the quarter, whatever is in there, 0.2% would be deducted for management fees. So all the work that goes into onboarding someone into our process, there is zero out-of-pocket cost for any of the planning.
And let's do this. Maybe even Aaron can do the math full screen, but let's break this down real simple. Let's say somebody has a $500,000 401k. They roll it over to our split IRA, and let's say we put $350,000 in annuities and $150,000 in Schwab. Again, as long as it's done properly, no taxes, obviously. The $350,000 in annuities, they would pay us a commission, right? So no out of pocket there. And then the $150,000 with Schwab, let's say it rolled over in November, we're not even going to value that account until the end of December for that quarter and every quarter thereafter and deduct their fees. So to me, I always tell people, you're not writing checks to Tony Walker Financial. Folks, you'll never write a check to Tony Walker Financial. It's going to go to the custodians that handle the money. It's either going to be a commission or fee. I think it's a win-win for everybody. And then what I like about that, Trey, is, again, they've got all of the work that we're providing, whether it's tax withholdings, recommendations on investments, no additional charges for any of those services.
Right. There's not a service cost at all for any of that. The onboarding process, all of this movement of money that really does scare the saver out there, it's done by our staff and done with a smile.
And they're good at it too,
Yeah.
Really good at it. So, all right, I think you've got, in the essence of time, I think we got one more. Let's talk about this one.
Back to Debbie Downer for the last one.
I can't believe you guys would ever suggest that a saver spends any of their principal in retirement. That makes no sense.
Let me take this real quick. The late, great John Bogle said this, and I think it's a wonderful quote. He said, this moving into the 21st century, and of course he's deceased now, but he said this is probably the first time in history that people are going to have to probably use their principal. Folks, gone are the days where you can run down to the local bank, get 6 or 7%, you invest your $500,000, they pay you $35,000 a year, you die, and the $500,000 goes to the kids. That ain't going to happen anymore with risk, with inflation. So what would you say to that if somebody says, what do you mean I got to use my principal? How would you respond to that?
Typically say, enter the split IRA. What we're able to do with our process and this split IRA concept is we can show savers, also by supplementing Social Security, maybe an employer pension, some of these different things, by working these assets into a game plan and showing them a lifelong income stream where they're not going to run out of money. We can't promise that they're always going to have as much money as they'd love to have, but we can guarantee they won't run out of it. And with very realistic assumptions on the front end, deploy as much of their assets as they need in retirement.
And I would say too, you know, the whole, put the book up, Live Well, Die Broke, Aaron. You know, Live Well, Die Broke is really emulating what my granddad did. I mean, the idea, folks, that you're going to be able to not use principal, it doesn't even make any sense. Why wouldn't you want to use and enjoy this money during your lifetime, just like my granddad did? And yeah, okay, you pass away, there's not as much money left, but wouldn't you rather use and enjoy it now? And if you've got something in place like these guaranteed annuities that can make sure you don't run out of money, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. So folks, all we're doing is emulating granddad's retirement, and it's very, very worry-free the way we do it. Well, Trey, we're about out of time. I really appreciate all the work you're doing, all the staff. We're going to try to have more and more of the staff on because I want people to understand there's a lot more at Tony Walker Financial than just Tony Walker. We've got a great staff, people like yourself, salaried fiduciaries that are here to work in the client's best interest. So thank you very much for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, folks, you might be sitting there saying, yeah, this makes sense. I would like a local firm that understands what's going on in the financial world, which products I should be looking at, and this written game plan you keep talking about. How do I go about finding out more about Tony Walker Financial? And more importantly, is there a way to get a second opinion on my situation? Well, there's good news right there, and it's easy to do. There's two ways you can contact us. First, just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. When you get there, click on the Let's Get Started button. Once there, that's going to send that information confidentially to our offices, and we're going to arrange something called the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, where myself, the owner of the company, will contact you to see how we might be of help. Now, assuming we can be of help, we're going to actually set up a one-on-one appointment with myself or one of our salaried fiduciaries to go through a free assessment of your situation. We'll then provide a free game plan so that you can study it and make sure it's something you want to do for you and your family. So if we do meet in person, we can either meet at our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or if the internet's not your thing, all you got to do is call the toll-free number on your screen, and we'll be happy to follow right back up with you and talk about your situation. Well, what does the Bible have to say about money and knowing where we're going and keeping the course and keeping our hand on the plow? Some good stuff where we're going to follow up to the book of Galatians. I'm Tony Walker. You stay tuned. I'll be right back. Whether you're a longtime viewer of the Worry-Free Retirement or just catching us for the first time, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all of our latest educational content and previous shows of the Worry-Free Retirement. Also, don't forget about our blog page at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You know, I've made it my mission to help savers worry less about money, and we want to help you too. Let us know how we can help by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
WorryFree Music presents the greatest collection of Christmas covers ever assembled.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Hey!
Tony Walker's A Humdinger Christmas. 486 timeless classics across 6 digitally remastered 8-track tapes.
Happy holidays.
Every song fills your home with holiday magic.
Sing ding a ding, ring ding a ding, ding ding a ding, dong ding a ding, ring ding a ding, ding ding a ding, ring ding a ding, ring ding a ding.
Don't miss this opportunity to receive Tony Walker's A Humdinger Christmas, the perfect way to celebrate the joy of this holiday season.
Dashing through the snow, hey, and one horse open sleigh, yeah.
Only $685 plus $3 shipping and handling. Order yours today.
8-track tape player not included. Offer void where prohibited.
And from all of us at Tony Walker Financial, have a Merry Christmas.
Hello, my name is Lisa Potter, and I am the rollover specialist here at Tony Walker Financial. Today, I'd like to take a minute and go over with you just some things that you should know before rolling over your 401k. So when we do get on the call to do your 401k rollover call, the custodian will ask you a few questions, some verification questions to get you verified. So a few bits of information that you may have handy before we make the call. They may ask you to verify like your hire date, when you started working for the company, your last date of employment. Of course, they're going to ask you your normal verification questions, date of birth, social security number, address, and those kind of things. But just to be a little prepared for, they may want you to verify some employment information. One other thing that they may ask you about is if you have received the special tax notice within the last 180 days. That notice is going to kind of go over your rollover options with you and just kind of go over the tax ramifications for taking an early withdrawal as opposed to rolling over your funds to maybe say Charles Schwab. And then, of course, if you have any questions on this, feel free to always give us a call. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
In previous episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement, we discussed the newfound Christians in Galatians running from the freedom of following this man Christ and being so easily persuaded by the Debbie Downers of the religious world to leave their freedom in Christ and instead go right back into bondage by following the rules and laws of man. In fact, Paul was so amazed at their actions of running from freedom that he referred to them as fools. As for the religious Debbie Downers who deceived these Christians to follow another way of getting to God, he suggested that they be accursed. Yet when it comes to your money and how best to safely use and enjoy it before it's too late, there are some financial lessons throughout the Bible that warn us not to be so easily entangled in the world's messages of trying to grow our money at all costs instead of playing it safe. So why are so many savers so easily convinced by the folks on Wall Street to put all of their money at risk? Well, I suggest that the reason for this is the most savers have no clue how much they'll need in retirement and thus assume that they will need a lot more money than they think and will have to put a lot of it at risk. The other reason I think savers get deceived into taking way too much risk is they don't have anything in writing, a game plan that allows them to see what they have and how a trusted and experienced retirement specialist can help them get what they want in retirement without taking all of this risk. And just as Paul referred to those Christians who left the freedom of following Christ as fools, the Bible seconds this notion of foolishness where in Proverbs 23:4-5, God warns us not to be deceived by the Debbie Downer messages of taking more and more risk to accumulate more and more wealth by thinking that more and more wealth will bring more and more joy, because it does not. That's because one day, and maybe sooner than you think, this money, no matter how much you've been able to successfully stockpile for the future, will, yes, fly away. It's a powerful truth and reminder that should stop any risk-averse saver in their financial tracks. As I noted in my latest book, Live Well, Die Broke, you really can't take this stuff with you, and worst of all, while you're trying to stockpile more and more money by taking more and more risk, you never know when the game will end and all this money will, fly away. King David sums it up best where in Psalm 62:10, he reminds us, "Do not set your heart on riches, yes, even when those riches increase," which is quite the opposite of the world's message of save and save and save and put all your money at risk. No, the world says when the riches increase, can anyone say the stock market these past several years before the latest crash? Then you just keep on trucking with all of your money in the stock market and make as much as you can. But then, as we've seen from this year when the stock market collapses, The same folks on Wall Street who still make money on your money even when you do worse, well, they give you the same one-liner to just hang in there. So, why are so many savers so easily persuaded to risk more and more money in hopes of, well, more financial freedom? Well, assuming you are a believer in God, you know, and I know, that more money might bring a little more happiness, but it cannot guarantee you more joy. And while I'm certainly in agreement that I'd rather have more money than less money, I can attest to this fact that more money also brings on more worry. That's because everlasting joy is not found in man nor in money, but found in a relationship with a man who claimed to be God's son. Only he can bring us the joy we're looking for. You know, David knew it, the writer of Proverbs knew it, the Apostle Paul knew it, and yes, the Son of Man, Jesus, knew it. The only way you and I can truly enjoy this temporary thing called money is to be free from the love of it. And the only way to do that is to constantly be reminded to focus our affections not on the things of the earth, but rather on the things above. And that, my friend, is some freedom you can certainly take to the bank. Well, speaking of freedom to stay the course of investing in things you understand and that provide more guarantees and less risk, I've got a question for you right now. Assuming you're a saver and concerned more with the return of your money than on it, why in the world do you continue to allow the Debbie Downers of the world to convince you to leave the safety and security of safer investments that afford you to enjoy your money and instead blindly rush over to the other side to risk it? Why do you not at least get a second opinion from a retirement specialist, someone who has more than 38 years in the business, overseen more than 5,000 written game plans, and has more than 2,000 clients to boast? Of course, I still see anywhere from 20 to 30 savers a week. Well, here's my thoughts. If I were in your shoes and feeling lost as a ball in high weeds, I'd want to see if there was a way out, a better way to use and enjoy and protect more of your money before it's too late. And what I'm talking about is simply you and I talking on the phone for about 10 minutes. We call this the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is to speak with the owner of the company, Tony Walker, in person. First, to do so, you can arrange this call by simply logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Now, once there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button, and there you can arrange this 10-minute phone call where our offices will call you to set up a mutually convenient time to talk. Then, if it warrants, we will be happy to meet with you in person. Yes, that's right. The owner of the company will meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. By the way, if the internet's not your thing, no worries there. Just simply call the toll-free number on your screen and we'll make that free phone call happen right away. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.